Honestly, so that's a thing I've seen. Do you ever do like the jam live cello over like a DJ? I've seen like people try to blend real live instruments over, like it's like the DJ live experience.
It's very rare to see that with cellists, but a lot of violinists are doing it, and I'm sure Dowling did a lot of gigs.
Yeah, in
like
Miami, it's a huge thing for sure. I've seen some cellists, but it's definitely more popular with violin.
You have more freedom when it comes to moving. You know, they want the violinist to stroll and like, you know, walk around the people and approach the audience. You know, it's kind of hard to do it with the cellist.
It's bumping into people. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm so excited to tell you, from the hills of Slovakia all the way here, we've imported her. She's in fact one of the most talented string players on the 4-string cello, not to be confused with the viola or the violin. And she plays with the Raiders home band, which is pretty rad. But even more importantly, she's part of Starset. You know, that band, Starset, that's not just a band. They're like a lifestyle and a society, and they have messengers, and they do like awakenings and things. Yeah, them. And on top of which, she's a maven in Las Vegas, where she has her and her other wieldy string players, stringettes, as they might call them, that go and do all these high posh events in Las Vegas as the greatest planner of all time. That's while she's not being a rock star and an ambassador to the country of Slovakia.
And what is her name? Might we share?
It's not a name. It's just a letter. Z.
Perfect.
Just Z. It's like Cher. You just have to be Z. That's it.
Not Zorro, but Zuzana.
There's not many people that can get away with a letter, so that's impressive in my book. I think it's great.
That is impressive.
What number do you use to dial Z? Like if you call 1-800-Z, do you use like the 0 for that?
What?
Is there well, which number is Z on the phone?
No, hold on.
Are there buttons on phones anymore? I don't know.
Oh, it's now on 9. On the older phones, it wasn't on the 9. They only had through X because there was only 3, but now it's Z.
Oh.
What a world we live in. So this is part 2 with Z. If you guys haven't checked out part 1, make sure you go back and take a look. We also have a couple episodes we did last year. I think beginning of it's been like almost a year, I think, since you've been on.
Anniversary.
Yeah,
it's our anniversary. Thanks for remembering.
Yeah,
Cory.
she might have been one of our first episodes of last year because we did a recap recently of all of our 2022.
She was our first episode of last year.
Well,
That's right. So here we go. Cheers to that. So the first episode, first recorded episode, I suppose, of 2023, but we're back. And in the last part, we talked a lot about your business and, you know, go back and listen to the earlier episodes for all the Starset fans that want to hear Z's story about getting back into cello and joining Starset and all of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, we got into a lot of great conversation in part 1. So let's continue on in part 2.
Yeah, we've talked enough about that little band Starset. I think more importantly, since we haven't had a chance to speak with you since, we can talk a little bit about the Lost Symphony project that you were involved with. And that's the new single that is going to come out at some point in the next decade, I assume. But it has been...
Are we talking about the 9-minute song?
9 minutes? Oh, bless your heart.
Oh no, is it longer now?
12.
Ben, when left to his own devices, will turn anything into a 14-minute song. I don't even know what it's at now.
I remember, Benny, last year sometimes you were texting me or something that you are just recording horns.
We did record horns.
You did?
We put trombone on a bunch of like live. So like if people want to know what the most metal instrument of all time, like both
trombone.
Literally and figuratively, it's trombone. Like if you go see The Dark Knight and you hear like the that's just making you uncomfortable, like while the Joker's coming at you, it's a trombone. And that was the instrument that for me was the most lacking in Lost Symphony. So Cory and I met a badass trombone player. And he came and played on a bunch of Lost Symphony stuff.
Wow.
We actually had we have sax on it too.
We talk about this, Dowling, if you were born again, that you'd want to come back as a horn player.
Oh, I just love horns.
This is that's her love language.
When there is a really cool horn section and tight, it just gets me going, man.
Well, then you're gonna love the new Lost Symphony record even more.
And we're talking about doing some other songs that are more straight ahead, kind of like metal tunes. And I wanted to put not only strings on them, but I want to put. We now know Marcus, who's a great trombone player, and we know a great sax player now. So now that we actually know them, they could come down, and they were all about Lost Symphony. Had so much fun, just like jamming with you guys. So like when we were going through it, like Cory and I are just like, should we do we're like, yeah, and they were just on site, like just doing this beautiful, making everything sound huge.
I'll say one of my favorite things with Lost Symphony is when Siobhán, you joined, and we get the chance to go into studio and work with real strings, like and then be able to sit there and be like, oh, what if we did this and add? Oh my god, that sounds beautiful. Like let's add more layers. And then we've been doing that for a while, and it's still one of my favorite parts about like working on this stuff. But then to have like horn players come in and start stacking like chords with the horns and just being like, how low does that go? Like what's the lowest note you can hit? and just like experiment, because I grew up, I was a guitar player, I play bass and drums. Like I get like the core instruments, but aside from like working with like MIDI and programming, I don't get to experience like the strings and the horns at a level that someone that grew up doing it. So like, it's really cool to play with someone else's experience. And like what was cool with the horn players too, they were telling us things that we didn't know horns could do. They're like, oh, I can also do this thing, and then they'd make some sound. I'd be, what the hell is that? Let's do that a bunch of times, So it's really cool. I think that this song, the new Lost Symphony track, which will be
the beginning of the end,
the beginning of the end of the beginning of the, it's a long song. And then I think when it comes out, it's going to be a different side of Lost Symphony and a very cool, it definitely has the Lost Symphony feel, but it's a new level, I think. It'll be fun. I wanted to talk to Z about like that experience, because I would say that we can all agree it was a unique recording experience, correct?
Right.
Ben, if you want to do your thing, but then set up, the whole process of how we made this happen.
Well, we did chapters 1, chapters 2, and chapter 3 for Lost Symphony, where we worked with a lot of really great players, everyone from Marty Friedman to Jeff Loomis and Angel Vivaldi, Rusty Cooley. We had all of them on the show. David Abruzzese, Jason Costa, like the list, Ollie Herbert. And with this new song, like we kind of like become like, really super guitar focused and, almost writing like crazy music specifically to be like, I don't want to say like Olympic level crazy, but like I didn't want to keep going that direction. So this time I kind of composed a lot of themes, and I wanted to utilize Siobhán's mind. Like Siobhán she does not do well when left to her own devices. If you say, write a part, she can't do it. She just can't. She's stifled by her talent.
I would argue that was the old Siobhán.
Maybe. Thank you, Cory. Yes.
Okay,
I think she's come quite a long way at this point.
She's come a long way.
You.
But if you give her the illusion that she's like just filling in the lines, but really she's like she wrote so many amazing arrangements, and because the song, we deliberately made it long because we wanted to have huge
deliberately made it
shifts.
long.
Well, I made it long because I really want, one thing I like when I went and saw Siobhán play in Miami with the orchestra, and they have 100 instruments playing at once, and they're doing 12 minutes of these songs. It's like it goes from whisper quiet to really loud. And there are so many different layers and intricacies, and you can only really feel how the themes come back in if you've kind of been dragged around for 12 minutes. And originally, we weren't going to do any other songs. So what I wanted this to be was like an overture. So like you listen to like a Broadway play, instead of hearing all the songs from the play, you heard the overture that had all those different themes. That's kind of how I approached it. And I wanted to make it grandiose. And it turned into almost like Broadway Lost Symphony. But because of that, and because of how long it's taken us to put together this monumental song, I wrote a bunch of straightforward heavy metal songs for all the people that'd be like, this sounds too Billy Joel to me. And we're going to do that too. So we're going to have like our thrash metal stuff. And then what we're talking about right now is like our Genesis, Dream Theater, Queen, Broadway, Lost Symphony.
And the whole point of that was to set up how Zuzana was involved.
And then Zuzana, I begged her. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm a little bit high. Okay, I apologize. So we decided that we didn't need any more guests for Lost Symphony. We played with all these people. So what's the first thing we could do? Get more string players, because Siobhán's clearly the greatest of all. She's the MVP of our band by far. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. Like, Siobhán blows us all away. So we're like, well, is that replicable? well, all right, is there another Siobhán out there, but maybe with a different color hair? They're like, well, this one plays a cello. She's amazing. And then I realized that all the people that have been playing with Dustin, that Dustin is like the Kevin Bacon involved. It's because he surrounds himself with the greatest players and people that are the most multifaceted and talented people. So I said,
you and Dustin are like kindred spirits. That's your collectors of talent.
Z is amazingly talented. She puts up with this craziness in this whole universe and does it and plays. It sounds perfect live. And then Mariko, she like won the Olympics of cello. And I saw you guys both, and I'm like, you want to know what will make us better than having to have Marty Friedman in our band? Just get Z, get Mariko, and then we imported Hector Hellion from Mexico, because this guy, like, we sat around and we basically were Googling who's like the best, because again, I'm a nerd. That's how I found Kelly. And then I found this Hector Hellion guy, and I went down the bunny hole, and I realized that this dude, like, I called Cory one day and said, you've been promoted and demoted simultaneously. Like, you're not playing bass anymore, but congratulations, you're the 7th guitar player for Lost Symphony. Because we got Hector Hellion.
I'm deeply honored. Anyways, so coming back to our guest. Can anyone remember the initial talk about how, when we decided that we were actually going to record all this together? So just to set it up real quick before you get into there. Previously, on most Lost Symphony recordings, if Siobhán came into town, we would work together and get the layers done. But often she would still be sending stuff from her home studio. When we got cello tracks that were sent in from everyone's like own area and studio, and then compiled into the session together. But we really wanted to get like more of a feeling of a string section on this. So we were talking about actually getting everyone together in a room, which led us down a path that brought us into a giant, emporium of vehicles that were worth each one worth more than my house. And you can take it from here, Ben.
All right, I'm going to calm down because I realize I've been talking over everybody because it's really important how this happened. So I remember coming from a wedding gig, DJing in Boston, and you guys were playing the Paradise Theater, and Siobhán and Brock had just got engaged.
To make a long story wicked fucking long.
And
I remember going backstage and telling Zuzana, hey, what do you think about the idea after seeing her murder it playing live? I said, what do you think about the idea of being Lost Symphony? She's like, sure. And then I held her to it. And then we convinced Ernie Bach, one of the greatest guys on the planet who's been on the show. He's a billionaire. He's a car mogul. Hey, man, because he loves hosting talented people. He loves hosting musicians and comedians and dignitaries.
He's been on the podcast, so go check out his episode.
Yeah, like he has Fergie, like, not the one from the Black Eyed Peas, but the one that's like, related to like the princess or whatever. He just has people at his house. So I'm like, you know what? I guarantee you Ernie would want to meet Zuzana. He'll want to meet Hector. He'll want to meet Siobhán. Like, he loves Siobhán. He's met Siobhán. So I called him and said, hey, listen, can we do a recording at your house? Like, and can I have Siobhán and her friends, Zuzana and Hector and Mariko, come stay at your house? He's like, sure, yeah, I'll put them up. That's fine. We come on down and we're about to record in my studio. And then Cory came up with the great idea of like, why would we record in the studio when Ernie has this huge, giant, ultra mega pad? Maybe we should walk around and try to find the greatest acoustic area. And when we went into this giant car emporium filled with like maybe 100 Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Bentleys and cars you can't pronounce, we realized that the best acoustics were under this vaulted ceiling made of fucking stone in the middle of this giant tiled room with 40 feet above us and nothing but cars way the fuck spread apart. And we convinced Siobhán to convince Ernie to let us record in there. Enter Z.
That was so kind and sweet of him to let us do that. And that was, I think, okay, let me just start from the beginning. When I got this track, the very first track, what is it now? It's completely something different. Okay, so the very first track, I tried to record something to it. And then Darling, I think it was like a week later, she was like, oh, I'm almost finished with my stuff. I'm going to send it to you. And then she sent it to me and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, you can write all this? It was like a movie soundtrack. Like it was just, I was blown away. I was like, well, I'm definitely hiring this girl in future for my company.
Darling.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so yeah, I think like a week later we went to Boston, and I know that we went to your studio the first day, and I think you were trying to like fit it all the charts and print them out because there's so many parts, so many different layers that we wanted to record. And were we doubling, tripling the stuff? I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, multiple. It was really trial by fire because this was like a new way of doing this, because it was always just me, just kind of like, all right, let's go, Right. So this was figuring out how to do it with like 3, but to somehow emulate an orchestra.
Yeah, you and I, Siobhán, had to go through and like break down each section. I had my own like notes going up because I had to figure out how to track it, actually record it, and in somewhat organized way, because we've got a long ass song in all these different sections. And like, so how do we make sure we don't forget anything? How do we make sure we have all like every take captured? So it not only musically is it a challenge, but also from like an engineering side, we had to deal with all that.
Well, let's give credit where credit's due. So I basically love to write songs to fuck with people. Like, hey, how long can I make it? How complicated can I make it? How many parts? And then I send it to Siobhán, and Siobhán sends me back, in the words of Z over here, a movie soundtrack that I'm like, this is unrecognizable as me, but I'll totally take writing credit for it. And we basically, like, just so you understand, like, so anyone listening and watching understands, Ernie has the coolest car salon that if you go in, it's literally just rows and rows of $100,000 to $1 million cars.
And if you're like me and you don't know what car salon means, it's a giant garage that's fancier than any building you've ever been in that has lots of cars.
We need to get some footage, like video or
but we have footage. Cory can pull some footage.
We'll drop some footage in right now.
First off, here's the whole caper we put on. So Z says that she's not on a caper in Las Vegas with her girls with the strings, but she came to Boston to do a caper with us. Because here was the trick. We told Ernie, hey man, can we just stay there? And then we're like, can we record here? He's like, yeah, no problem. But the thing is Ernie has people working on his house at all times because he's constantly just building and expanding and making, like every time I go there's a new house or dwelling or garage. Like Siobhán literally stayed in a mini house that he just built, like a mini house. So we get there and there are people working in this salon. Now, meanwhile, Cory, with his buddy Eric, who plays drums in the wedding band he's talking about, assembles a whole studio, a whole full-blown recording studio, brings it all in, crazy microphone set up, the whole nine. Eric is like literally a Jedi, works for Snoop Dogg level, just shows up. We have the Lamborghinis around his office. Meanwhile, they're like using a jackhammer to like create another room to put more Ferraris in there. And we have to kindly tell them before the girls are up, like, we're about to record. And now all these dudes are looking at us like, really?
The discussion was hilarious because it was Eric and I arrived and, it's a whole compound. So you go through the gate and you pull in, we park. And then the guy that's working there, he's like, hey, you guys are using the car salon? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I got some guys doing some work in there. Like, that can be a problem? I'm like, oh, what are they doing? They're jackhammering, putting it. I'm like, we're recording like strings, like soft. I'm like with super sensitive microphones. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be a problem. He's like, oh, well, you guys should talk to Ernie. And then he just walked away. And like, I'm like, what the hell are I gonna do?
See, I didn't even know this was happening.
Well, you don't know because here's what happened. So Ernie comes in. And he's like, really, guys? Kind of like, and then Siobhán, Z, and Marco come in looking radiant with their cases, just like waltzing in, smelling of beautiful potpourri and of like France and just like wonderful, like they're just great. And then like Marco has so much confidence. She's like opening her cello case, and then you haven't had your coffee yet. You have your coffee in your hand. You got your violin, but you look like you're down to business. You got your glasses on, your notes ready, and Ernie's like, oh, can I take some pictures with you? Holy, this is wow. And then you guys like literally just started tuning. He's like, oh no, stop everything, guys. Let them do whatever they want. They can do anything they want. Because he saw us setting up a whole studio. He knows. Ernie understands. He knew exactly what we're doing. He's like, I don't understand why they're stopping my whole setup. But once Siobhán, Mariko, and Z walked in, he was like, can I take pictures? Because you guys are amazing. He saw it. He's like, oh, that's why they're totally taking over everything in the Lost
Point
Symphony.
being, if it was just me and Ben recording there would have been a lot of jackhammers in the background.
Ow! Ow!
He's like, you guys can record in the bathroom. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh.
Technically, we could have gone to the mausoleum and had a lot of natural reverb. That's the irony. It's the plan B was to go to the mausoleum with the 25-foot dome of the rock.
Well, that was
ceiling.
plan A. That was the original idea. And then when we were sitting there and Siobhán was getting settled in, we just kind of, hey, grab your violin. And we just kind of walked around and tested out a few places. And we were like, we could tell as soon as you started playing there, the acoustics of that room, like, we have to do it here. This is perfect.
The acoustic was amazing in that room, like the natural reverb. I mean, I don't know how the post, production and all that went, but
I deleted it and put MIDI in everywhere. That's what No, it sounded incredible.
No, like the reverb and all the like the EQ and effects. Like, did you have to like add a lot? Or did you get most of it like naturally?
I used a lot of the natural in there, but obviously, to make it sound like a movie soundtrack, then you got to layer in more and more, and
I understand.
more and stacking on there. But it sounds beautiful. I think it came out really.
I can't wait to hear it. I heard like the beginning of the stages of you like mixing it and all that, but we were on a tour.
We'll get you an updated rough mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to be a surprise because I'm so happy that like it's come together like it has. But we also, Siobhán, don't forget so this is what I want to do for the ending because I don't think anyone's ever done this. So again, this is why I'm also writing super easy metal songs because I realize that what I put my bandmates through with this song is enough for them to quit me. But this is what I want to do at the end, Z. So we decided
just now it's been enough for them to quit.
We decided to put 30 layers of acoustic guitar. It's me and Cory just playing the same thing over, and we come in with all these counterparts, and it's really pretty. And what I want it to do is I want the strings to play the identical parts as the acoustic guitars and slowly fade into each other. So each acoustic guitar fades into a cello or into a violin, but at different times. So what we're playing over for 3 minutes straight, these repetitious parts, slowly fade into an orchestra. So instead of a long fade of acoustic guitars, it fades from acoustics into a full orchestra playing the same thing.
It's now a 17-minute long song.
Yeah.
No one's done it.
But when you guys were there, I mean, it was incredible to see, and it was incredible to hear because we don't often get the vibe of three string players together. It's all, when you're layering in people if everyone's doing their stuff on their own, it's never quite the same in terms of like that sonic, like the richness that you get from having you guys do that. And then of course we had you layer it, 3 or 4 takes per part. So then you stack those and then hopefully it comes across as this big, full orchestra, in the final recording. And I just think it was a really unique way of approaching the song. And obviously we were very fortunate to have access to, a beautiful venue and then having the resources to bring you guys in to do it. And I think that people are going to like really enjoy the song when they listen to it once, and then they're going to have to take a break and recover. And then hopefully they listen to it again, but they might need a nap in between. So it's going to be an experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a long song, but I think it's worth it.
It's not any longer than the 1812 overture. Like, what the fuck, guys? You guys are classical.
I listen to that every day, so that makes sense.
No, but listen, I mean, I think it's like a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to get that orchestral aesthetic with limited players, right? There's a lot of ease when you're able to get 60 players in a room, put up a few room mics, mic some sections, and then you just do a straight through take, And there's so much more that you have to do to sort of emulate that sound when you're dealing with just a couple of people. And I think that's one of the challenges that we faced, even for me and on the arranging side, is like, how do we divide this up in a way that we're not, doubling parts too much or covering things too much
or
or
covering
keep it balanced.
like the upright bass parts. How do we make that feel, or the flute parts, or like really
we added flute
parts.
too. We have live flute. We have live flute. Craig played flute on this.
Yeah, we had.
And I think it was a really, really smart idea and good call to record the strings live, meaning like all of us together at the same time, because there's something magical about recording it that way. It sounds more natural and like more organic. Although, when you record stuff on your own, just like, let's say I will record my parts at home and then send it to you. It's like, it's not as organic when you put, you know what I mean? When you try to like mix everything together.
We've really been very fortunate in that Cory and I have had multiple projects lately where we've been able to do like sound demo level recordings. So first off, setting up at Ernie's place, like if you go into his place, it's built like a church. It's like insane, like all, again, vaulted ceilings with real stone, like real masonry, like all beautiful tile. And again, like very, very open. So acoustically, it's wild. And then Eric really is one of the best recording engineers on the planet. He really is. So having the natural reverb of the room, being able to have match pair of microphones, a crazy person like Eric running around with Cory, like with their protractors, figuring out if like everything's like equidistant. And, also having you and Mariko and Siobhán, who all have your own distinct sounds. Like you can hear which one of you was playing what part, and it's phenomenal. And like it sounded so good that it was one of those things where I'm just sitting there with my arms crossed, like, how does this not sound good? We had microphones in front of each one of you, in front of the room. Like it sounded like a sound demo. So it was one of the most rewarding recordings of my life, because to think that some of these lines came from my mind, and then I'm seeing three virtuosos playing in front of Ferraris, and then we had a whole camera crew with like the jibs and the whole, not like, I felt like I was P. Diddy in the 90s.
It was definitely a great experience for me, and playing with friends, that definitely helps. And I was gonna say something and now I forget.
Yeah, that's what happens when Ben talks for a while.
Yeah.
Everything just
and I'm getting old. I forget things.
We all are.
I should start writing it down while Ben is talking. Just writing down,
keeping notes. That's very helpful. But anyways, we can obviously, if you have anything else that if you remember from the session, that's great. But we've talked about Lost Symphony now for a half hour, which. Anyone listening, go to lostsymphony.com. This episode brought to you by Lost Symphony, and buy our old records and wait for our new one too. Hopefully you enjoy it. But what else is going on with you, Ozzy?
So we are going for this tour in February. It's a short one. Usually the tour is 2 months. The first month we stay in Europe, and then the second month we go to Russia. Obviously, that's not happening now anytime soon. So it's a short one, and when we get back, I'm definitely going to focus even more on my business, do a little bit more marketing, do a little marketing videos and lots of advertising, and just get this thing going even more.
You're gonna build an empire? Is that your goal?
I would love that. I'll take the advantage of the opportunity being home for a while.
What you need to do is you need to find a client that's willing to fly my band from Boston there. Tell them that we're exceptional. Like, this band comes from out of state. Don't tell them who we actually are. And then put us up in a nice hotel. Tell them it's like really like very rare to get a band to travel there and everything. And just hook us up, okay?
Okay.
Tell them for $100 less that you can hire a DJ. Just one person. Fly me out to Vegas. I'll play every single song. I don't even have to listen to them. I could just download it on the way on the airplane. And if you put me on JetBlue at least.
And I'll add an exceptional violinist as well. My darling.
There we go.
Honestly, so that's a thing I've seen. Do you ever do like the jam live cello over like a DJ? I've seen like people try to blend real live instruments over, like it's like the DJ live experience?
It's very rare to see that with cellists, but a lot of violinists are doing it, and I'm sure Dowling did a lot of gigs.
Yeah, in
like
Miami,
that
it's
too.
a huge thing for sure. I've seen some cellists, but it's definitely more popular with violin.
Yeah,
DJ,
it's just
but
more.
That's common.
It makes more sense with the violinist. I mean, it has nothing to do with the ability of playing. It's just more
The register, probably.
the register, and also like you have more freedom when it comes to moving, on the stage. And a lot of people require strolling. They want the violinist to stroll and like, walk around the people and approach the audience. It's kind of hard to do it with the cellist.
It's bumping into people. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
Sorry.
Kate just put like one roller skate on it. Just like move around. Like
there is
I'm
a
always
cello,
looking for solutions how to be even more mobile.
But there is a cello strap, right?
So there's this cello strap. I tried this years ago with like a guitar strap on my electric cello, and it was a disaster. It did not work because I don't know if you guys ever saw how on electric cello you have like this little, how do I explain this? It doesn't have a full body, right? Like a regular, like an acoustic cello. And so it's very thin, and there's this piece that you put on the back of the cello to kind of mimic that body distance, right? So when I used the guitar strap, I couldn't really play with that because it was like up there. It was just like so awkward, and it was literally impossible to play. But there is this other strap that my friend is using on the acoustic cello. I forgot the name of it. It looks ridiculous on the acoustic cello. Like
is it the block strap?
Yes. But she started to using it on electric cello, and she like showed me how to do it. And I'm gonna try to do that, especially for like the FEMS shows that we have, because you wanna like rock around the stage a little bit more, and so see how it works. It just sometimes with these straps, like it looks a little awkward the way how you move on the cello. So,
can't you take off that distancing piece and just take that off and like have it closer to your body?
That's what I used to do. But it's just it's your shifting it's just so wrong. The whole thing is just wrong, and you can't really it's really hard to play that way. And like I feel like I don't sound as good as when it's like how it's supposed to be,
But when do we really play how it's supposed to be these days?
I mean, yeah, like just to play cello standing up, it's a skill on its own. Like I never thought that I would be able to do it. I thought it's impossible. Like I moved to Vegas, and it was kind of like a requirement on a lot of gigs, and I would be like, "You're out of your mind. That's like impossible," and so wrong. and here we are. Like with Starset, that's like a thing. Like nobody ever sits on the chair. Like no cellist sits on the chair.
Yeah.
I think I saw the first time I saw you guys. You had was it Jonathan?
Yeah, John. I think Jonathan
he was
might have
super
sat.
tall.
He sat the first time I saw you guys. Yeah.
Yes, he was super tall. I think it was kind of awkward for him to stand. Like I think that was the reason, but it just looks cool, when you stand. But a lot of people don't get that to consideration that is actually the wrong way to play cello. And if you're not
Do you think
comfortable,
anyone even knows how people even play cello?
I've met people who are like, "Oh, I thought that this is how you play cello," and that's not how you learn how to play cello.
The sad thing is, in this country, that music in schools is so underappreciated that most people just think yo-yo is a thing they go with.
Well,
Siobhán, that's the greatest eye roll in history. Come on, yo-yo ma. What?
I got the joke.
Yeah, we all got the joke.
And then he leaves.
where did he go?
That was his mic. That was his mic drop.
Oh, mic drop.
Can't do any better than that. So we're out.
Like you said, when do we really play how we want it? When do we really sound how we want it? how we want to.
Yeah.
That's why I never leave my recording studio. I've learned how to make myself sound exactly how I want it. The second I get it to sound how I want it, I forget everything. And I just move on because it's already recorded and who cares? Nobody wants to hear me play.
This is a good topic because it's, I mean, going back to a lot of what we talked about in part one, it's a slippery slope of like, you know, making lots of little compromises in what you're going to do, you know, I mean, outside of Starset, of course, our lives as freelancers, you know, and the things that we do. I mean, you know, you're kind of molded by what people are expecting from you, you know, and it's really hard to build a career and a life outside of that's exactly what you want, because you're constantly influenced by what people think or what they expect or what they want from you, you know, as a performer.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have to be adaptable. You know, it's funny that probably the longer you do it, the more obvious it gets. But, you know, kind of everyone has an idea of what they want to do, especially when they start out in a creative industry, like being a musician or something like that. Sure, when we all like first like got paid to do what we were doing, we had an idea of where that trajectory was going. And I'm guessing at this point, none of us are doing exactly what that thought was. But you kind of learn, like, you never thought you would stand up to play cello, and like now that's like 90% of what you do. You're not thinking like a complete classical player anymore. You have to shake that off and be like, oh, this is the direction I want to go. And I think finding the line of how far you're willing to push it, whether it's the way you play or all the extracurricular things you have to do to continue doing what you do, like you know, we talked about in the first episode, you know, you got to be a content creator to be a musician. Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I hate that shit. So like, I want to be a musician. So like, you know, it's like taking your medicine. Like I got to like, you know, do that if I want to like do stuff to promote myself in that direction. But it's a necessary evil, you know, for the stuff that I'm trying to do. I think we all have to find that line of like, at which point do you say, all right, well, now I got to bounce back in another direction to continue doing what I want to do. In your professional career, have either of you hit like a limit of like, this isn't the kind of gig I want to take anymore?
That just brings me back to why I wanted to start my own wedding business, you know, to do things my way, how I believe that they should be done.
There was a box of a way things were being done in certain places that you saw a better way of doing. And it's like, you know, you could take the easy way and go, I guess I'm going to suck it up and deal with this thing. Or you can kind of make your own way back in the direction, which you did.
Yeah, then yes, yeah. This is, why I started my own business. And hopefully it's going to be a big empire one day.
Darling, it will.
Well, first off, I full-heartedly believe that there's always going to be a market for beautiful, virtuoso women in Las Vegas doing anything, especially when you dress all in black and go together like to Caesar's Palace. Like, you're going to bamboozle them because, like, I mean, you're so talented. And I think that if you can automate that, my question becomes, so what happens when you find 10, 12 unbelievable players and that you could just sit at home and talk to people on the phone and have them going to Caesars over here and to the Wynn over here, and that you could just collect your VIG? What would you be doing? Will you be playing a cello?
Well, I hope I can play cello until I die. You know, that is something that I'm never willing to give up, you know, to play cello. But the question is, like, if I'm comfortable with my lifestyle and everything, I don't have to worry about, oh, I have to take all these gigs. I have to take all the work. I can literally just do what I want. You know, I can play for my own enjoyment. I can record stuff on my own enjoyment and not for the sake of making a living.
So is that the goal? That's what I'm asking. Is that the goal? Is that one day that you don't have to like change the key immediately because Dustin changes his mind, or that you have, you know, to learn Bollywood music at the last minute and just people assume that just one day you'll wake up and be like, I can run to the store, get myself a smoothie, and then I'm going to go home and play some Brahms.
Yeah, I mean, basically, but, you know, in a sense of like, when it comes to playing cello, you know, I never want to, like, I want to play cello because when I play cello, you know, not that I don't do that now, but right now I always have to think about like surviving, you know, so I have to, you know, I have to keep working and I have to do things that maybe one day I don't have to play cello. You know what I mean? One day I can focus on a project that I want to focus, and I don't have to think about like how long it's going to take me. I have a deadline, or, you know what I mean? Just enjoy.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Siobhán, have you enjoyed one moment of playing anything for the last 10 years of your life?
I've enjoyed plenty of moments, but it's I think it's super important no matter what you do to be super in touch with what is making you happy, because it's very easy to be pushed in a certain direction based on, like, let's say where you live. Like, for example, Miami is a very like sort of flashy entertainment center, and Vegas is probably similar, right? So as a violinist, there's a lot of demand for, you know, electric violinists that play with DJ, or you wear some sort of crazy costume and you're playing a bunch of pop music. And yeah, you're going to make like good money doing that. But if you're doing that all the time and that's not what you want to do, and that's not what's building your artistry, and that's not what's making you happy, I mean, that can become a really difficult lifestyle to maintain, you know, as your freelance life, because over the course of time, you're like, okay, well, what am I doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there are certain things that you end up choosing to do because it seems like it's the right thing for the right pay, for the right, you know, it's sustaining
Well, it's an existential
career,
crisis. It's like
Right.
you're sitting there at the Mondrian. You're like, oh man, I'm making $1,000 an hour right now. I just had a scalloped wrap and bacon, but I'm not doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like for example, and I mean, it's funny because I did a Facebook rant about this the other day, but you know,
I was waiting. Oh, she finally did it. I baited you for 2 episodes. I baited you to talk about it.
You should have been more direct with this. Okay. I would have totally talked about it. So, okay. So, I mean, everyone knows string players. Okay. Christmas time, New Year's time is super busy, right? This is when we get all of our gigs. Like it's, you get asked to do a million things. Like you've got to figure out how many New Year's gigs you can fit in one day. So, I mean, I ended up having to play a New Year's gig the other day. And, you know, basically what it was, I was playing at a restaurant, and, you know, it started as like, okay, well, can you just play along with a DJ? And then it's like, oh, well, can you throw in some sound equipment for free? Oh, can you play for an extra hour for free? And basically what I ended up doing was I was playing electric violin. I ended up having to provide my own playlist, not even playing with a DJ. And I stood in basically a corridor in some elaborate outfit where almost nobody paid attention. Right. So I am a violinist, and I love to perform, and I love to play music that I enjoy, and I want to be inspired. I want to, you know, the point of playing is to have fun, right? To enjoy it, to be elevated by whatever you're doing. And here I am sitting on New Year's, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm playing here in like a big crazy costume for nobody, doing a gig that I didn't even sign up for here. So at the end of the night, it's like, what was the point of that? It doesn't even matter what it paid. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy any minute of it, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it becomes very easy to like fall into a lot of those situations and, you know, have that become your career unless you really, really avoid things like that. So.
And that kind of harkens back to what I was trying to say a little bit earlier, but like, you know, sometimes that, especially when you're kind of getting into a field like this, where that's not a gig on New Year's. Oh, it pays a bunch of money. Great. You say yes. And then you show up and you're like, what the hell am I doing here? And you kind of have to look at yourself and say like, is this what I want to continue to do? And
Cory, weren't you with me on New Year's one year? And
too many
Sharon,
times.
We had. So we DJ'd some New Year's parties, and there's nothing worse than when you're going. So first off, if you get married on New Year's, it's either a good idea or super selfish. Like if you're fun and you're gonna throw a fun party that's like worth it, and like it's a good destination for anybody to go on New Year's, cool. But like we went, and it was a bunch of boring people. They're like, oh yeah, we like to dance all night, and like you put on Danza Kuduro, and everyone's sitting there like, is this in English? And you're like, oh my god, like I can't handle it. But so this is what you have to do though. So this is what I do. So first off, I always I envisioned what guitars I could buy with the money that I was getting from that time. And then I went to that happy space, and then I would just play it for me. So like, that's the thing is like, if I was in the corridor, so like, this is what I would do differently, Siobhán. And this is just friendly, constructive criticism. Remember, you're making enough to put on the stupid costume and come play for a bunch of vapid assholes in the middle of a corridor.
Questionable.
That don't give a shit, okay? But hear me out. You should be happy knowing that you can do whatever and no one gives a flying fuck. And that's worth something, because otherwise you could be getting up at, I don't know, on New Year's Day to go pump gas for assholes for maybe a millionth of what you just got paid.
That's true.
You find happiness knowing that you could buy a new bow, like the ones on Z's wall over there, knowing that even though New Year's sucked, you're like, 1873 right here, beautiful horse. Oh,
perhaps, but I think
those are 4 of them are like really shitty ones. Only one is good. So
is this Antiques Roadshow where I'm supposed to sniff out which one? I'm like, oh, well, this is the one without the horse hair.
That's honestly the first time that I noticed that you had bows on your wall, because it was a little hard to see. So good for Ben for pointing that out. Everyone listening, watch the video.
Forget. I'm like, oh shit, that's right.
No, but coming back to the point though, I mean, I think a lot of, all of us here, I think, chose music because we wanted to choose freedom, right? And we wanted to choose enjoyment and doing something that we're passionate about. So if you're wanting to go home with the paycheck because you can afford something, you can get a corporate job, and that's fine. And if you want to accept, like, all right, I'm going to be relatively unhappy going into this office for the day, but I can still buy something at the end of the day. All right. But that's not why I signed up to do music, So that's my take on it, is you still have to actively choose, fulfillment and joy regardless of the money.
Okay, Socrates over here. So then why did you sign up for music? If it wasn't for the money, what is the actual reason?
I think she just said.
Free. She just said it.
Yeah.
Freedom? Is it really freedom?
I think it is freedom. I think it's freedom, but I think you can get caught into not being free. You have to choose it. It can be very easy to get caught into a sort of corporate type life as a musician.
Oh, yeah. There's like the thing you see a lot. Like, I left my 9-to-5 job after 10 years to have my own business, work for myself, and now I work fucking 16 hours a day. Like, it's I would not say that like I have freedom in terms of like time, but I can work around that. I have a more, I guess, flexible and fluid type of freedom.
Well, it's not freedom of schedule. It's freedom of mind. It's freedom of like it's a different.
That's what I was trying to get at in terms of like I can say, you know what, in 3 weeks I'm not going to book any clients, and I'm going to have a week to focus on what I want to focus on. But yeah, there's there's pros and cons to this kind of lifestyle here. And especially like Z, like having your own business in this kind of atmosphere, you don't have a boss, but you have clients, and they can be way shittier than bosses sometimes, and they can be great. But, that's a whole nother level of interpersonal relationship you have to deal with when your livelihood depends on keeping people happy and making sure that you have a good reputation, you're professional, and that people want to work with you and people want to give you lots of money. And that's a whole skill set that probably most people wouldn't think that you would need to have if you're just going to be a musician. So there's like kind of like, both ways of looking at it in terms of that way.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a separate skill aside from being a musician, to run your business the right way, And I think we have like a similar story too. Like we were in the corporate world. Like I was in the corporate world for 10 years. And a lot of skills that I use today when it comes to business is because of that 10 years in corporate world. So it didn't go all to waste.
No, it never does, of course. Yeah.
My question is to Siobhán, is it really freedom? Because I feel like every time I've seen you try to do with music, like because you know so much about it, that you're like, I don't know if I should do the Phrygian here, or maybe I should flat the fourth. And you could just see your cogs like working until you start seeing smoke coming out of your ears. Because like, is it really freedom, or do you feel like stifled by music theory?
Well, that's you're kind of on the micro level. I was talking a little bit more macro, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's if you're being
isn't
creative,
freedom all an illusion
freedom.
Anyway? Like Cartesian thought, like isn't it just an illusion of freedom and free thought? Like everything's all predetermined. Like really, it's just like Donnie Darko, where the things come out of the stomach and they just follow. Like you're just following your path, and even despite the fact that you think you can make a decision, you're not.
What? Well, I mean, I guess coming back to the example of the New Year's,
we're all gonna die.
Oh, God. No, but I mean, if you're choosing music and you're choosing to be an artist for a living, you should be. The freedom is doing it on your own terms. Otherwise, don't take the gig and just stay home and enjoy the time with your family like everybody else that has the holiday that's off, right? So whatever you're doing, do it your way, whether it's Z's business, whether it's Lost Symphony, whether it's Starset, whatever we're talking about. The point is, that's freedom. That's what I'm talking about, is just doing it exactly how you want to do it. And for whatever your price is for that, or whatever your limitations are, whatever is that your expectations are, that's what you need to do.
I feel like, are you telling us this or yourself?
I think I'm telling myself this, but hopefully.
and the most important lesson, and going back to the first one, is make sure you charge what you're worth.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
When are you getting married, Benny?
Oh, me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she wants to marry me anymore.
Just eternally engaged.
You're engaged, right?
Well, she told me I took all the fun out of it.
I was just looking for business. Kidding.
No,
kidding.
No, here's the thing is, I love Cindy and she loves me, but we have this house and we've moved in together, and well, I'm the neurotic guitarist and I have more room for my guitars than she does for her shoes. And we live closer to Boston, so we could get a much better place if we just sell this place. So really, before we go spend a bunch of money on a wedding, which is what she deserves and what she wants and which I did professionally and know all about and hate. But we got to do that. But before that, we got to get the hell out of here and get a new house that makes her happy. So she can be happy, so she can be a happy bride. I started by getting her, I got her I got her a better ring. That was the first thing. So like, I'm systematically getting the things that I need to get her, to marry her and earn her worth. Now I need to prove to her that with all my projects that I can provide and get a much better house than we have right now and buy her out, and then she'll want to marry me.
I need Cindy to give us a master class on some of her skills.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
She makes way more money than me, so she's like basically like telling me to like step it up because she's a nurse and she's really good at it, and she works in a nonprofit and she like goes and saves lives, and she's like, I could just work as much as I want and get paid. Like, yeah, because people need you. No one needs cello. You don't need cello every day to survive.
Everybody needs
methadone.
cello.
No, you teach them that they need cello. That's the point of the episode.
Yes. They can't
Teach
live
them that
without
they
it.
need it and teach them what it costs.
That's right, darling.
I don't deserve Cindy. That's the thing. I'm trying to earn her. And the truth is that you have to prioritize things in life. I wish that Cindy was as easygoing as Domi, where they can just be like, let's go to a Chinese restaurant and let our friend play some acoustic guitar in the background. And it was great Chinese food. I'm like, this is the best wedding party I've ever been to in my life.
I feel like I should explain that. Yeah.
Good.
We had a very small, intimate ceremony, and then we had two big parties for our friends. One of them was at rented a hall at a Chinese food restaurant with a band and stuff. So
I love
we
that.
didn't just go. We did have Chinese buffet, but no, it wasn't just like my wedding was at a Chinese restaurant. I feel the need to specify that.
Even so.
Our reception was at a Mexican restaurant, though. I'll admit that. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, you were so classy that you didn't invite any of us to your wedding. You're just like, yeah, we'll party afterwards. Like, well,
He didn't want any drama.
Yeah, you know.
Why would he want us there?
Simple. I've worked too many weddings to know what goes into them to be like. I was like, hey, let's just do this.
See, okay, thank you, Cory. I've tried to explain that to Cindy, but like, all of her life, her sister had this huge, giant wedding, big Portuguese wedding, like. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, all I see to myself is like, we could have had a better backyard. We could have provided for our dog for another 5 years without having to come out of pocket. She's like, but I want to look good in a dress. And I take the fun out of that because I'm a DJ. So I'm guilty of that. But really, the most important thing to me is I want to get her a house that'll make her happy, where she can have a bathroom and take a shower while I'm taking a shower, while her daughter's, doing her makeup, and we can all have our own bathrooms. And until that, I don't have the right to marry her. I don't have her permission.
Benny, all I can say is just make sure that she has a nice ceremony music.
Yes.
So hire Las Vegas Music Oasis.
You gonna cut me a deal? Because I knew some people who did it for $100 last week at this place.
No, Dowling charges a premium.
You get what you pay for, darling.
There you go.
That's right.
And that's the lesson that we've established in these last two episodes. Way to bring it home. Z, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Putting up with us
you.
for 2 full hours again. You didn't learn your lesson the first time, but that's okay. Obviously, we wish you the best on the upcoming Starset tour, both of you, and we'll have to check in again after that at some point. And obviously, take a look. What's the website for Las Vegas Music Oasis?
So it's lasvegasmusicoasis.com.
That's easy.
Simple, easy. And then the same thing you can find us on Instagram, Las Vegas Music Oasis, and also on the Facebook. And
Very cool.
weddingwire.com as well.
Beautiful. Las Vegas Music Oasis. If you're going to be in Vegas getting married, that's the place to go.
Or you
Hit
don't
her
have to be
up.
in Vegas. Just be willing to fly them out because they're worth it. Because
That's
you
right.
get
Just
what you
charge
pay
a
for.
premium.
Listen,
Yes,
we flew
yeah.
we flew Z out. We flew Siobhán out. And I want to say thank you because we've seen you briefly at Starset stuff, but just to say hi because you're a rock star. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart that, what you and Siobhán and Marco brought to the table as a 3-piece ensemble. It elevated my ideas, or what started as my ideas that became pretty much Siobhán's corrections. Like I have to tell you, I have never been more proud in my life to show my mom and pull out my phone and be like, Mom, we're at Hanukkah. I'm like, look, adjust the strings from my new song for 3 minutes straight. And she's like, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I'm like, right. Now I put guitars over it and ruin it. It's coming. So thank you.
LostSymphony.com.
That's the big plug.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, guys.
No, thank you for coming back. Thanks
We
for
love
putting
you.
up with us.
Anytime.
Love
Guys,
you
check
back.
out 2020-d.com. Like and subscribe wherever you are, and we'll see you next week.
And now they're hearing this name Pantera popping up everywhere on social media. And this conversation people are having of, should this tribute happen? Should it not happen? There's almost like this weird chasm that falls down the middle is people are getting into Pantera or they're rediscovering Pantera again.
Well, it's kind of like the Gen Z kids that are getting back into Queen, or not getting into Queen because of the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. It's like all of a sudden everyone's
Exactly.
singing the songs at the bar, and it's like, wait, did you ever listen to them? And I think that movie made a huge difference in it.
That's the thing. I don't care how people get into these classic bands, just get into them.